We might love the game of basketball, but there have been some moments when the NBA got on our last nerves, and some of the situations made us pull our hair out. Here are some of those major NBA you suck moments that you'll never forget.
Wood, fouled, threw it up and it went in!
The NBA bows down to Communist China. By October of 2019, there were already over 20 weeks of millions of people in Hong Kong peacefully protesting in the streets. The protests were initially centered on a proposed bill that would have allowed for the extradition of Hong Kong residents to China to face trial. But the protest was overall about freedom of speech and justice with a fair system of due process, with the ability to be judged by one's peers. The protesters flaunted U.S. and Gadsden flags, pushing for fundamental U.S. constitutional laws for their land, while being brutalized by the Chinese Communist Party's encroachment on their semi-autonomous homeland. Now here's where the NBA racked up several "you suck" moments. Instead of following the red, white, and blue decree of freedom, they yielded to the tyrannical regime for the money. According to the New York Times, basketball is China's most popular sport. The CCP has a market on the NBA representing hundreds of millions of fans. As a matter of fact, CNBC reported that more than 640 million people in China watched the 2017-2018 NBA season. But in the Halloween season of 2019, Daryl Morey, the general manager of the Houston Rockets, still had the spirit of July 4th and independence, as he tweeted out an image which voiced support for protests in Hong Kong. Now, of course, in the days following, the CCP, or China Communist Party, forced their leagues, streaming services, sponsors, and partners to cut ties with the Rockets and the NBA until the NBA bent the knee. The NBA quickly released a comment saying, "We recognize that the views expressed by Houston Rockets general manager Daryl Morey have deeply offended many of our fans and friends in China, which is regrettable. While Daryl has made it clear that this tweet does not represent the Rockets or the NBA, the values of the league support individuals educating themselves and sharing their views on matters important to them." Morey was then pressured to delete the tweet, saying he would stand with Hong Kong. Seeking to do damage control even further, Tillman Fertitta, owner of the Houston Rockets, attempted to distance his team, the shareholders, and the NBA as a whole from Morey's statement. And even though he later defended Morey on ESPN, saying that Morey was the best general manager in the league, he stressed that the Rockets had no political position. But the CCP doesn't endeavor in anything but full submission. So in the following days, the Chinese Basketball Association announced it was halting business with the Rockets in response to the tweet.
2-on-1 break for Houston. Up top, throwing it down.
The communists cancel the Rockets. Now, even though NBA Hall of Famer Yao Ming, who played for the Houston Rockets from 2002 to 2011, is now the president of the Chinese Basketball Association, nothing could stop the decision of the Communist Party. And it wasn't long before the CCP announced on their party-led national broadcasting system, CCTV, as well as their biggest live streaming platform called Tencent Sports, that broadcast of Rockets games would be discontinued. To put the magnificence on display, Tencent Holdings represents the NBA's largest digital partner outside the US. It makes up $1.5 billion in NBA programming in China. With that much money at stake, Morey was coaxed or even coerced to further publicly claim that his views did not reflect those of the NBA or the Rockets.
Harden, step back, puts up the three, got hit, shot's good, and one! James Harden!
The NBA distances from Morey. On the American side, some lawmakers came out in support of Morey and criticized the NBA for distancing themselves from the league manager. Senator Ted Cruz proclaimed, "As a lifelong Houston Rockets fan, I was proud to see Morey call out the Chinese Communist Party's repressive treatment of protesters in Hong Kong. Now in pursuit of the money, the NBA is shamefully retreating." Surprisingly, even some politicians on the opposite side, like Democratic Representative Tom Malinowski of New Jersey, came out and slammed the NBA for apologizing to China. With politicians and fans furious at the NBA attempted to appease their home base and issued another statement. This time, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said the league would not censor players or team owners. It was a great day for true red, white, and blue Americana. But communism doesn't adhere to freedom of speech. The CCP then said any speech challenging a country's national sovereignty and social stability is not within the scope of freedom of speech. With that said, CCTV announced a halt to all broadcasts of the NBA preseason games.
Does he miss it on purpose? We got the miss and the tip!
The NBA bends the knee to appease China. The acronym stands for the National Basketball Association, but they embarrassed themselves as they displayed no sense of nationalism at all. Since all of the companies on the NBA's list of wholly owned Chinese sponsors had suspended ties with the league, the NBA bent the knee to appease the commie regime. According to CNN Business, Ctrip, China's biggest online travel website, and the Chinese fast food chain Dicos dropped the NBA endorsement agreement. So the NBA stepped up their game of shame and began to engage in petty tricks to keep the issue out of the international airwaves. The case was shown full-blown when CNN reporter Christina McFarland, a sports correspondent, was cut off from asking a question to NBA athletes about the conflict. It all occurred during a media event with Rockets players James Harden and Russell Westbrook. She simply asked the players if they would feel differently about voicing their thoughts on political and social affairs in light of the controversy, and that was the grounds for her being cut off. Now, of course, the NBA glossed the incident over by later apologizing in justification. The NBA claimed that the reporter inappropriately interjected and that the response was inconsistent to how the NBA conducts media events.
In his third year. Harden. Oh, what a pass!
NBA players joined the kowtow to China. Then the king of basketball himself, LeBron James, joined the commie conciliation and called out Morey. LeBron said Morey's tweet was uneducated and went on to say, "Yes, we all do have freedom of speech, but at times there are ramifications for the negative that can happen when you're not thinking about others and you're only thinking about yourself. I don't want to get into a word sentence feud with Daryl Morey, but I believe he wasn't educated on the situation at hand and he spoke. And so many people could have been harmed, not only financially, but physically, emotionally, spiritually." And that was the spark that led hundreds of thousands of Hong Kong protesters to immediately start burning LeBron jerseys. James later attempted to clarify the situation in a tweet. "Let me clear up the confusion. I do not believe there is any consideration for the consequences and ramifications of the tweet. I'm not discussing the substance. Others can talk about that. My team in this league just went through a difficult week. I think people need to understand what a tweet or statement can do to others. And I believe nobody stopped and considered what would happen. Could have waited a week to send it." But LeBron wasn't the only NBA player to bring embarrassment. Rockets all-star guard James Harden also issued an apology of sorts after general manager Daryl Morey's tweet of support for a free Hong Kong. While in Tokyo, Harden, alongside Russell Westbrook, spoke to the reporters and said, "We apologize. You know, we love China. We love playing there. For both of us individually, we go there once or twice a year. They show us the most important love. We appreciate them as a fan base. We love everything there about them, and we appreciate the support that they give us individually and as an organization." Meanwhile, the shamed association continued to say that Morey had made improper remarks regarding Hong Kong, and the NBA doubled down on its strong opposition. Yet, no matter how much the NBA cowered to the CCP and went against the fundamental freedoms of the US with freedom of speech and liberty, the Chinese Basketball Association announced that it would also be canceling NBA G League's planned exhibition games between Rockets affiliate Rio Grande Valley and Dallas Mavericks affiliate Texas. And to add on to the NBA embarrassing beating, Nike, the most prominent partner of the NBA that provides the league with team apparel, pulled Houston Rockets gear from their stores in China. So regardless of all the NBA's efforts to appease the Communist Chinese Party, it all resulted in a huge NBA "you suck" moment. So what other moments are still fresh in your mind do you remember saying, "NBA, you suck"? Give us your comments down below, and we'll see you in the next video.